Alright, in this video we're going to take a look at actually extracting the functionality we have built to create a rectangle to a separate function that we can then call to easily create new rectangles and not have to write all this code to create a rectangle every time we want to use it. And doing so is actually rather easy because you can already imagine that we just have to create a new function within JavaScript, and we can call it create rectangle, and we can just pass all the options we want to have configurable to that. So for example, we want to pass the artboard to which the rectangle should then get added. We want to pass an x coordinate, a y coordinate, a width, a height, and maybe a hex color that then gets used as a fill for this rectangle. And you can already imagine that all we have to do now is just to copy all of this code or actually just cut it. So I will quickly delete it here and add it to this create rectangle function. And of course we now have to modify some of the values in here, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. First of all, we have to specify the width and height. So we just replace the 100 here with the width and the 100 here with the height. And in that way we have already specified these things. We still don't want to enable our stroke, but instead of making it a red rectangle, we just pass the hex color value to our new color constructor. Instead of selection item 0, we now want to add this to the artboard. And last but not least, we just can replace the x:100 and y:100 with x and y, which is actually identical to writing it like this, but we can just leave the colon, so y:y is actually equivalent to just writing y in this case, because the name is exactly the same. What I'll also do now is to copy over, and you can also copy that from our steps repository, a JS doc comment, which just lets us have a bit better auto-completion and type checking in here by specifying which types these different arguments actually have. And as you can see, we currently don't have any artboard in here, so I'll just add an import to the artboard class up here, and it's also part of the scene graph module, and with that we should be good to go and can just call create rectangle in here. So I'll just call create rectangle. We once again pass it to selection items 0. As an x coordinate we maybe want to say 50 pixels now, and also 50 pixels as a y coordinate. We will pass in a width of 100, or maybe let's just recreate the functionality we had before. So let's just make all these 100, and as a hex color, let's in this case just make it black instead of red, to bring in a little bit of variation at least. Back inside Adobe XD, we can now actually test our plugin once again and see that everything still works. So if you remember, we should basically have the same functionality, and actually let's really make this the same functionality, also because this then complies with our steps template, which is actually quite important so that you can follow along even if you lose track of something. And so once again, everything the plugin should now do should be exactly the same. So we still should be able to create a rectangle that's 100 pixels wide, 100 pixels high, and lives at the coordinates 100, 100 within the selected artboard and has a red fill color. So let's go back inside Adobe XD. I'll delete all of this and I'll just select this artboard and we'll see what happens. And yes, we still have our rectangle, which is red at coordinates 100, 100. And of course, you can now imagine that we can also use this to then create some variation. So for example, say we now want to go to the coordinates 0, 0, and we want to add a black rectangle here. So I will save this. And inside the UXP developer tools, we're still watching for these changes. So we shouldn't have to do anything. It should just automatically reload. So if we come back inside Adobe XD and select the artboard, I can run my command. And as you can see, we are now able to easily create more than one rectangle by just calling this function again. And this, of course, allows us to make it much easier to then modularize this functionality. And since a lot of XD plugins are actually about automating workflows, it is really a very common thing to write these helper functions for such things. In the next video, we're actually going to take a look at extracting this function to a separate file, just because this file is now getting quite long with already more than 100 lines. And to make it a little bit easier to read and find, in the next video, we're just going to extract this function to a separate file. And after that, we are already once again finished with this step and section, and we have another checkpoint that you can just follow along from.